Thank you all for coming in this evening. Welcome to the Lincoln Theater. We're here tonight for the Massam Mayor candidates, sponsored by the Independent, the Repository, and the League of Women Voters. I'm Dick Kuhn. I'm a past officer and current board member of the League of Women Voters. And we'll talk about the League in a second. I'll have to put a plug in here. Also sponsored by the Independent, and they're represented by Veronica Van Dress, and the rep is represented by Matt Rink. And right next to me here is Amy Shriver-Drucy. She's the president of the League of Women Voters. What I wanted to do is explain that we're going to have an opening session. We're going to ask some questions. We're taking questions from the audience, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But I do want to also introduce the candidates. We have Lee Brunkard, Kathy Catazaro-Perry, and Francis Chickenelli. Thank you all for coming. And you know, I do want to make a point. This takes a lot of guts. I was going to use another word, but it takes a lot of guts to come up here and answer questions. They're answering questions from the press and also questions from the audience. And this is really what democracy is all about, the free exchange of ideas. And so you know who the heck you're voting for and what that candidate stands for. So I do appreciate you folks coming in. We did have a sign-up list, and I did want to recognize other office seekers here that are here tonight. I'll introduce them. They won't be able to speak now, but please take a second to talk to them after the program's over. We have Linda Littman running for Madison City Council, Dave Irwin running for Madison City Council, Joe Kramer, candidate for Ward Councilman, John Zapakale, John with the Board of Educations, Ed Lewis, Council at Large. I don't have my glasses. John Craven, is it? Council, and Megan Sterrett. Did I miss anybody else? Candy? All right, thank you. I'm sorry?
Claudette Eisen.
Okay, Claudette Eisen. And she's running for council president, as I remember, right? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming. And please take an opportunity to speak with them after the program's over. The format is one that we've used. It's not really going to be a debate. We've had it work before. It's a forum, free exchange of ideas, as I mentioned before. And it's sort of the tenet of the League of Women Voters. It was brought to my attention earlier that the Lincoln Theater was built 100 years ago. And back then, women weren't allowed to vote back then. So I think the changes that this theater's gone through and the changes in our community are to be recognized. The League is a nonpartisan organization. It's open for both genders. I call myself a minority member, and people get upset when I say that, but it's very important that the thing that I particularly derive from this is very seldom do you get the square information. Candidates at the national level and some all the way down, they spin things. And I can assure you, since the League here does not endorse candidates, they endorse issues after they've been studied, but they don't endorse candidates. When something comes from the League, you're getting a straight scoop. And you'll notice that we have some literature in the back, along with any literature from any of the candidates are back there too. But we have the voter's guide that just came out a week or so ago. Please pick one up. In there, it explains the issues that are going on, and also some information about the candidates. Once again, the candidates aren't endorsed one way or the other, but you'll get the information from them. And it's really important that we get an informed electorate. With that, and of course I imagine there's something to sign up if you want an application to join the League too, and I'd sure welcome anybody to take a look at that. Our format, once again, is just it's a forum. What's going to happen, the rotation was drawn by lots, and we're going to go in a certain order. It's going to start out with a 1-minute introduction from each candidate. For time purposes, we're going to share the microphone. They'll get a minute to tell a little bit about themselves and maybe what programs they might go forward. And after that, we're going to start the questions, and we're going to rotate the questions between the three co-sponsors here, and we'll rotate. The first question will go to the second speaker and so forth, so the same person doesn't have to be the first one answering or the last one answering. We'll rotate that through. The candidates will be given a minute and a half to answer their questions. I mentioned to you before we started, we have timers here, and they'll hold up how much time you have left and so forth, and when your time's up. As I mentioned before, we don't have a hook, but we'll get somebody burly to come up here and drag you off away from the mic. We want to be fair. The questions that are going to come to Amy here from the audience, they're being screened several times before they get up here, and Amy will take the last screening. Not that we have a particular axe to grind, but we want to make sure that nothing's asked that embarrass somebody and that kind of stuff. Though, once again, the questions that come up can be addressed to a particular candidate, but the other candidates will get a chance to respond too. Once we're done with the questions from the three co-sponsors, if time allows, we're going to have something that I'm not sure how it's going to fly. It's either going to be word identification and what was the other thing? Lightning round, okay? And as I told them, if it's funny, it was my idea, and if it bombs, it's their idea. So we'll see how that works out. But then the bottom line will be then each mayor candidate will have a minute to sum up where they're coming from, give a closing statement for lack of a better word, and then we'll call it a night. I would presume we'll be in and out here no longer than an hour and a half at the most. So that's what we're looking at right now. So with that being said, we drew lots. And number one is Lee Brunker. Lee, you want to give your 1 minute opening?
First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring the forum this evening and for the repository, and to the Lions for allowing us to use their beautiful and historical theater this evening.
Don't forget the Indian.
And the citizens for coming. Okay. Our problems hinge on the lack of excellent paying jobs in new industries. The availability of great paying jobs affects our ability to provide efficient city services, lower our crime rates, help keep taxes low, and will increase our population, which will help return Massa City School to Division I status once again. I have a plan and a vision that will not only promote job growth, but will work to reduce our debt load. To reduce our debt load, we need to focus on accountability and transparency. Taxpayers should be able to see where their money is being used. Under the Brunkard administration, the city's checkbook will be put online for all to see. We must bring 21st century jobs to Massillon, such as warehouse distributions, pharmaceutical packaging companies, aerospace technologies, and textile production facilities. To do this, we must undertake a very aggressive marketing and advertising campaign. Finally, I will begin an initiative to begin resurfacing our roads using a hot-in-place asphalt recycling technology. Okay. We will bring the repair of our roads in-house. With this new technology, we will save the taxpayers 30 to 40%. Thank you.
Next is Francis Chickenelli.
Thank you, and again, thanks to everyone here and all the sponsors for this debate. I was born and raised and educated in our great city of Massillon. I care about this community, and I am blessed to have been mayor of the city for 24 years. I am proud of my administration's record. We were able to achieve great things in regard to job development, crime prevention, senior and veterans programs, and neighborhood development. My administration balanced 24 straight budgets and improved our bond rating. We were never in fiscal emergency. When I lost re-election to the current mayor, I didn't think I would ever run for mayor again. In fact, I had hoped that she would have succeeded. However, over the past 4 years, her administration has given us financial crisis, administrative mismanagement, political cronyism, and a leadership style that is an embarrassment to our city. A mayor must unite our community, not divide it. You can't, during public council meetings, call our elected officials racists, sexists, and liars. These types of problems motivated me to seek election to restore integrity and professionalism.
Thank you. And Next is Kathy Canizero-Perry.
Thank you, Dick. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Independent, the Repository also, and the Lions Theater for opening up our historic venue. I'm Kathy Canizero-Perry, currently the mayor of the city of Massillon, the city of champions, and I'm running for re-election to continue the work that I started. I was going to talk about my family, but I see that we have 1 minute, so I want to tell you when I began as mayor, I started with $416 and $2.6 million worth of unpaid bills. Gas bills, telephone bills, they were going to shut off our phones and our gas. We were in serious trouble. But Moody's told us that we had 5 years of deficit spending. And tonight, Frank will tell you that I'm going to blame him for being in fiscal emergency, and he's right. He put us in fiscal emergency, and I will work to get us out. And I brought over 1,000 jobs to this city and retained over 800. Thank you.
I knew there was going to be something I missed. We want to hold that down to a minimum, please. First of all, it takes time, and second of all, I don't think it's fair for everybody. So please hold that down to a minimum if you would, please. First question is coming from the Independent, and it's going to be addressed to Mr. Chickenauga.
I think the first question is for all the candidates. The hiring.
He answers first.
He answers first. The hiring practices within Massillon government have been a cause for concern, with words and phrases like nepotism, political favoritism, and who do you know being bandied about. Specifically, the hiring of Dwan Gordon St. John by Mayor Kathy Canizero-Perry has been highly criticized. St. John is connected to the local Democratic Party through her husband, Demetrius St. John, and she was even pardoned for a past crime by Governor Ted Strickland. Now she's been fired from her post amid a police investigation. Mayor, you may address that issue if you wish when it's your turn to speak. But for all of the candidates, what standards do you or will you have in place for hiring? Will all jobs be advertised, candidates vetted, and finalists interviewed as part of the hiring practice under your administration?
I was mayor for 24 years. We hired a lot of folks. In some cases, you have civil servants, classified employees. In other situations, you have unclassified. We always vetted potential candidates for positions. You can only go so far because of constitutional rights, but there are ways to look and see and check on prospective employee, and that should be done. Of course, during the last 4 years, that hasn't been done at all. You have to look at the hiring practices of Kathy's administration, and many times positions were given to individuals that are strongly represented within the Democratic Party. And it seems that the city of Massillon has become a dumping ground for certain families and certain friends of certain families. And in reality, the people of Massillon, their children and grandchildren, were not hired and have not been hired. I think it's a travesty of what has existed in the last 4 years. And we always try to find the best person available for the job.
Is Canizero?
Thank you, and I'm happy that you asked this question this evening. I have hired an excellent staff these past 4 years. First, I hired a safety service director who is now our Starr County Sheriff. He had a passion for leadership, he had a passion for police work, and he's our leader in the county. Secondly, I hired a CDBG gentleman, a director, who is now the president of the Chamber of Commerce. I hired Margaret Elam, who worked for the Ohio House of Representatives, Speaker of the House, and has been extremely qualified. I do want to address Dwan St. John. This young lady did have a history when she was 20 or 21. Now, if any of you in this audience can say that you didn't make any mistakes when you were 20 or 21, and you know, we have a drug problem in our community, in our state, and she had a drug problem, and she sought help. She went out and received a master's degree, and she was turning her life around. And I gave this young woman a second chance. And I think we deserve to give people second chances. And what I would tell you is that she was pardoned by the governor, and unfortunately her hire did not work out. And there are going to be times when there are hires that don't work out, and I wish her the best of luck.
Mr. Burkhardt.
As I said at the endorsement interview, the city of Massillon is at a turning point. One of the largest things that's hurting the city are political favors that are being paid and the appointment of friends, family members. This has to stop in the city of Massillon immediately. Under the Brunkhart administration, first, all jobs will be posted. I will interview and seek candidates who have a very long track record of success in their fields. Why? Because this is what Massillon has to have. We no longer can just appoint our friends and, well, let's hope that they do the job, and then, you know, find out down the road they get dinged by HUD or the federal government and then end up costing the city money. So what I will promise you is under the Brunkhart administration that there will be no political appointments made and that I will appoint none of my friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question comes from the repository, and it's addressed first to Ms. Canizaro Perry.
Mayor, I think you already answered this, but I want to ask, who's to blame for the city being in fiscal emergency? And what will you do as mayor to stabilize the city's finances over the next 4 years?
Thank you for that question, Matt. I can tell you that we have done everything we can to stabilize our community, and we have done that. That's already accomplished. We have, and if you don't believe me, I'll share this with you. I started with $416. This is from the auditor, $2.6 million worth of unpaid bills, and Dominion is going to shut off our gas.
You're referring to the period.
Correct. We've eliminated the general fund deficit only this January. It has taken us 3 years to fix the mess that the former administration has left. And we are in the right track, we are in the black, and the city of Massillon has a bright future. We brought in 32 new jobs and looked downtown, and that's what you have to do, is bring the tax base up. And that's what we've done. We were able to balance our budget 2012, 2013, 2014, and we'll do it again this year. So I believe that I've answered that question. City's at the right path, and we have a bright future.
Thank you, Mr. Burkhardt.
Well, your question originally was, who is responsible for the fiscal emergency? And that clearly falls on the shoulders of the mayor. The state did not come to the city, she went to the state. Not once, but twice. And why that was is because the first time, there are several marker points that you have to meet in order to qualify for fiscal emergency, and the city only qualified for one of those. And here we go again. We're going to blame Frank over here for everything, and he's going to say he managed everything correctly. This is what I want to say. What you see sitting here, she sat on council for 8 years. 7 years, she was on the finance committee. Years 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, she chaired them. Every budget he submitted, she voted yes for. So, who's responsible for the fiscal emergency? That clearly falls on the shoulders of the mayor. Thank you.
Kathy, there you go again. This is getting totally ridiculous. I have been blamed for everything that's happened, I think, worldwide by Kathy Canizaro Perry. But the reality of the situation is this. She attempted to get the city into fiscal emergency when she was a council member. And I have documentation to indicate that. And the state auditor on October 26th of 2011 said, from a quick review of the information and seeing that the city had no deficit funds and minimal outstanding payables, it appeared that the city did not meet the conditions for fiscal caution, watch, or emergency. That's in October 26, 2011. I left office December 31st, 2011. Then it took her almost 2 years, approximately, to get the city into fiscal emergency. She begged the state auditor to get the city into fiscal emergency. That is a fact. Finally, it occurred. And it wasn't during my administration. It was on October 8th, 2013, almost 2 years into her first term. So I'm tired of the blame game. She was a member of council for 8 years. The city went through the worst recession that we had since the Great Depression. The whole country did.
Time's up.
And that certainly had a lot to do with the situation.
All right, thank you. The next question is going to be asked by Amy Schreiber-Drucy, and it's going to go to Mr. Broker.
The question from the audience is, in lieu of raising the tax rate to 2%, what creative ideas do you have to generate sustainable revenue?
Excellent question for me. The first thing that we have to do is take the current audit that we have, which involved the parks and the police department, saved approximately $687,000. Had we implemented those would have already been in place. We would have already been saving that money. But the mayor decided, when interviewed, that she would pick and choose which one she was going to do. She said that she would look at certain ones that she wanted to implement. I actually think the entire city needs to be audited. If we can save $687,000 in 2 departments, I could only imagine what we could save in the whole city. The other thing I just want to touch on real quick, I think our wastewater treatment center is a valuable resource to us that we are not tapping into. We could put turbines on the water that we inject back into the Tuscarawas River. That's over 11 million gallons a day. We could generate approximately $100,000 for the city. With my repaving, using the recycling technology, we could save 40% on our roads. So for every 10 roads we pave, we could get 4 more done. And by doing it in-house, we could do the road in front of your house in 2 hours. I think that's great. You could go to work and come home to a new road. And just those couple of things could save millions of dollars for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chiganelli?
We have a 4-point plan for the city. Economic development, everybody talks about it, but we did it for 24 years. We brought in 40 new companies and thousands of new jobs. And that is statistically proven by just seeing the new companies as you drive all around Massillon. I think we need to continue that trend in being aggressive, making sure that Massillon's being represented at the table to get these companies to locate here in Massillon. These things just don't happen overnight. We also are in favor of a comprehensive plan, a new comprehensive plan for the city of Massillon. Our last comprehensive plan was done in 1970, folks. It needs an update. And we want to work with citizens and council members, administrative directors, community leaders, like from the Chamber of Commerce. And we need to restore cooperation and solicit cooperation for the development of a new plan for the city. At the same time, we need to improve city services, streets, safety, and programs for our seniors. And you have to understand here, this all takes money. With economic development, like it was for 24 years, those things will happen. The city of Massillon has not raised the city income tax for general fund operations since 1977. And yes, there is an issue on the ballot in March, and let the citizens decide. We also are in favor of administrative reorganization, and you have to have...
Time's up.
Thank you.
Ms. Canizaro-Perry?
Thank you. We have had to be creative with our ideas when you come in with $416 and $2.6 million of unpaid bills. So we wrote a FEMA grant, and we were able to receive that, almost $2 million. We recently wrote a COPS grant, and we're receiving that as well. Economic development, the first year I was in office, we visited 52 businesses to let them know how valuable they are to our city. We had to repave roads like 9th Street to keep those businesses here. When the Heinz Company was going to leave, we worked with the state to make sure that they stayed here. We could have lost 450 jobs. We have ended the overtime, and I will tell you, under the former administration, salaried directors received overtime, and some was promised for always. Every couple weeks they got it, no matter what. I ended and signed the legislation. Andrea Scaza was the executor of it, and we ended the automatic pay raises that Mr. Ceccanelli put into place years ago to increase his salary every year. Those were ended under my administration. And we also did a performance audit that we received a grant from Altman, so able to pay for that. And we're able to utilize that through our negotiation process this year. So we have been creative with the mess that we were dealt. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is going to come from the Independent, and it's going to go to first to Mr. Ceccanelli.
Okay, I'm going to kind of tag on to Matt's question about the city being in fiscal emergency. And like any government entity or even a business or even your household at home, there's only so much money to go around. It sometimes means tough decisions have to be made in terms of where monetary resources are directed. So the question is, rank the following in order of importance. Meaning, if you had to fund one over the other, which area would get the money and why? A, police and fire staffing. B, roads and infrastructure. And C, animal control / code enforcement.
Actually, they're all important, but this is a very interesting question. If I had to rank them off the top of my head, I think police and fire. And the reason being, the safety of our citizens and the businesses that operate here are extremely important. If people feel safe here, if companies and the employees that work at those companies feel safe, you have to have top-notch police and fire departments, and we do, and we have maintained those throughout the years. Yes, they have been cut during Kathy's administration, but the folks in those departments work an extraordinary period of time, and they work a lot of overtime because of some of the layoffs that took place, but that's very important for the citizens of Massillon. Of course, roads are extremely important, and unfortunately, dollars were not there. Kathy voted against a $5 license fee when she was a member of council. That would have brought in approximately $280,000 a year to do roads. That was back in, I believe, 2004. You do the math. Those dollars could have been spent for road resurfacing. And thirdly, I think, I guess you put together code enforcement and animal control are very important. You take a drive around our town. I noticed the last 4 years that some of our neighborhoods have deteriorated a little bit, and that's because when Kathy came in office, we only had one code enforcement officer.
Thank you. Ms. Kenneth-Perry?
It is a tough question, and it is one that I've had to deal with, unfortunately. When you come into office with that kind of debt, they're expecting you to fix it. And that's what we did. We talked with the state, and they said, put yourself on a recovery plan, which is what we did. We refinanced the senior high-rise because we were spending about $300,000 a year. And in order to save policemen and firemen's jobs, we refinanced that. And today they pay about $130,000. So you can see we saved about 3 firemen or policemen's jobs. And it wasn't something that I wanted to do. Most mayors come in and they have lots of money to start with. I didn't, and I had to make tough decisions, and we did that. Our roads and our infrastructure have been ignored for years, and we're working on that. We've had 2 harsh winters, so the roads are very, very important to the city, as well as the code enforcement. We've got to have people out there looking at who needs to clean up their house or their business. But I would like to say that, unfortunately, because of the former administration's poor decisions and lack of leadership, I had to lead. It's not always fun. It's not popular to make the decisions I've had to make, but I had to lead and I had to make those decisions, and they were temporary. And today we're much better off. Everybody's back to work but one gentleman, and the city is on the right path. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bernhardt?
Let me just clarify up front, this is not a hard question for me to answer. By law, the mayor of the city is charged with the safety of their citizens. So obviously, police and fire by far, the very first thing that I would fund, I wouldn't even have to think twice about it. The thing that I find interesting about this question is that Kathy and I both stood on the stage just a couple years ago, and I was the one who come out and honestly said there were going to have to be tough decisions made, and yes, there was going to probably be a possibility of layoffs. But I stood here and I said that the police and the fire would be the very last people laid off. And she agreed with me. And then she got in office, and they were the very first people she laid off. When the city has other services, health department, engineering department, EMS services, these are services that we do provide, but they can be outsourced to private industries or to the county. And we could have looked at something else, like giving the police office furlough days, but instead we laid off. And what that cost the city was approximately an average of $700,000 a year in overtime. So really, by the end of her term, we're going to be looking at an extra $2.8 million we could have added in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next question is coming from the repository, Mr. Rigg, and I think it's Ms. Canizero-Perry.
Mayor, one of the issues that you brought to the voters' attention 4 years ago was were the large debt payments on the Legends of Massillon Golf Course. What have you done to address that, and what will the other candidates do to address those debt payments?
Thank you, Matt. Our city at the very beginning was in crisis management, as you can imagine. But when you go back and look at the history, we had a wonderful golf course at 18 holes. And then the former administration wanted to expand that and spent twice as much on the next 9 holes as he did on the first 18. They've indebted our city until 2032. Frank admits it was a mistake, but we have 17 more years of it. We could have used those dollars in parks. So I wanted to address, what have we done? We have Carrie at the Legends right now, who's a golf pro, and she came over from Tam O'Shanter. She's brought other golfers over with her. She's doing a fabulous job. Everybody loves her. We have a new director, Kim O'Farrell, who is doing a fabulous job.
If I could interrupt, though, the question is specific not to the debt payments, not the operations, the debt payments themselves.
Well, the debt payments are the debt payments. I mean, unfortunately, we are going to have those till 2032. But what we can do for the debt payments is increase the revenue so that we can pay something towards that debt. Right now, our residents are using our park tax to pay for the 9-hole expansion. And we need to change that. And that is something that is a very difficult nut to crack. And my administration is going to work on that in our future. So it's going to be very exciting, and there will be some changes. Well, I don't have that on the forefront of my plans. There are residents that have invested in that area, and they've used their life savings maybe to build a house there. And so we have to take that into account. And so every decision I make on the Legends Golf Course is going to be with 2 things in mind: those that live there and those that don't. We have to make a good decision on that. Thank you.
to raise the revenue at the Legends. That's all that it comes down to. But here's what you have to do. Once again, we have to stop taking people who's within the city, whether that be through our party appointments or through our friends, and putting them in positions where they do not know what they're doing. Again, post a job, interview, find someone with a very long, successful track record. Become the director of the golf course, number one. Two, you need to bring in somebody, like I said in the endorsement interview, PGA, 30-year, Kelly Brook. She spent 30 years in the PGA, and now what she does is she goes around and she comes in and she'll tell you what your golf course needs or doesn't need. The article that I read, she was able to increase revenues by $400,000 just in 1 year. The other thing that I would personally like to see is I would like to see the park board, under my plan, the park board would be dissolved. And this is why. The council meeting that I was at, they were having a large group come in. And they wanted to raise the bottle of beer 50 cents. So, and this was when Doug was in office. So he's got to get it approved by the park board. And if there's not approved, then it has to go to council. And if they make one adjustment in it, he's got to go back to the park board. And that's the most craziest thing that I've ever heard of. Okay, just get rid of the park board, bring it in so you guys could just call your local council person, and that person can bring it right to council. Thank you.
Mr. Chicken-Alli?
The Legends of Maslin Golf Course opened in 1995. It wasn't a major political issue until Kathy ran for mayor in 2011. I'd like to know something. If Frank and Joy Chicken-Alli did live at the Legends, would the Legends Golf Course be that much of an issue? I really think it's a political bargaining chip, because let's be honest, unless you live there and unless you golf, then maybe it isn't of interest to you. But it is part of an overall comprehensive Parks and Rec development plan. And the original study that was done by the Leisure Group before the income tax was increased for Parks and Rec activities showed that the golf course eventually would be put under the Parks and Rec. Yet a lot of citizens don't know that. The performance audit that we spent, that Kathy just touted, says specifically and gives examples and gives actually a lot of examples on what to do with the golf course. Yet she touts the performance audit, but none of it's been implemented yet. And it was in April of 2014. This is ridiculous. There is an organization made up of citizens called FLAW, and it's assisting the city with the golf course development. Let's work together with everyone concerned, city officials and our residents, to come up with a plan on what to do with the golf course.
Next question is coming from, I guess, the audience, right, with the lady. And the first one to answer will be Mr. Brookhart.
The question from the audience is, what are your plans for annexation in the next 4 years?
Good old annexation. It always comes back to this question. Okay. I have said this over and over again, so I'll say it again. It is not on my agenda to come into office and begin annexing immediately. But we must realize that if you don't live up on Spring Hill, you live in a piece of annexed land of Maslin. Annexation works great. It gives us room for businesses, and if a business came in, I would definitely consider it. But I would only consider it if we were going to be making income off of that property, because what people usually fail to tell you about annexation is we annex something, and then we, the city, we're responsible for either putting in a road or fixing the road and the curbs and the sidewalks and the water lines and the gas lines. And that all costs money. And in the past, we know the former mayor was a very large annexer, and a lot of that money was borrowed. And now we're still paying on that. So, and one more reason, we don't have money maybe for our roads, or we don't have money for the police and the fire, is because, it's just like when we have too many credit cards at home. We're paying on the credit cards and we don't have any more disposable income. So would I do it? Yes. If it was, there for us to profit from, absolutely I would consider it. But it's not my main goal to come in and just start annexing. Thank you.
Annexation, I think, is an interesting topic. However, in some cases it's controversial. But I'd just like to give the audience and the citizens at home just an example. All of us lived in an area or live in an area that was annexed at one time. The United States of America went from 13 original colonies from all the way to the West Coast. Annexation. It seems that some folks want to propose that annexation is bad. It really isn't. Annexation allows cities to develop in an orderly way. If Massillon wouldn't have gone out and annexed the amount of land that we've annexed through the last 30 years, then just take a look around. Look at other cities nearby: Canton, Akron, Alliance, Niles, Warren, Steubenville, have lost half of their people, a third of their people, 2/3 of their people. Industrially, they aren't growing because they don't have greenfield sites, which most industry want to move here. It has provided an avenue and a revenue stream that really benefits the city now, but also into the future. I leave you with this. Let's propose that we detach 30 years of annexation. Would the city of Massillon be in better shape or in worse shape?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay,
4 years ago, I talked about annexation and that I would only annex for those that wanted to come into the city, and there's a few reasons why. Right now, we can't take care of what we have. Our roads, our infrastructure, it's all crumbling because it was ignored for many, many years. For instance, and let me give you an example, Spring Hill, we have a lady and her husband in the audience tonight that was annexed over 25 years ago. And they were promised when they were annexed that their roads would be done. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They still haven't been done. They're still waiting. So I will welcome anyone that would love to come into our city, but I am not going to go do a money grab like the Tuslaw High School that was proposed several years ago. Thank you.
Next question comes from the independent, Ms. Van Dress, and it's going to be addressed first to Mr. Chiganelli.
Let's talk about something positive. Can you give us an example, just one example that stands out for you, of a Massillon business success story, and then explain what the city and you as mayor, if elected or if re-elected, can do to make it happen again?
Are you saying specifically a company you're talking about?
A Massillon business success story that stands out for you.
Well, there were many. And I'm not bragging. If you know me, I'm not a braggart. But the fact is, there were a lot of economic development proposals and projects that we undertook when I was mayor, and many of them. I think one that sort of typifies what a mayor should do is Shears Foods. Many years before Shears decided to build a plant here, I had talked to the owner of Shears, and they were going to expand the Brewster plant. And they decided to stay at Brewster and expand that facility. Eventually, through our contacts, we heard they wanted to build a facility. So they purchased 30 acres in the southern end of town, land that was annexed back in the 80s. And now that facility is growing leaps and bounds. At the same time, or maybe about a year and a half later, in 2011, I met with Mr. Shear, at that time owned Shears Foods, and I encouraged him to move his corporate headquarters from Brewster to Massillon. Hence, they now occupy a Lincoln Way location at Grand Mill Center, really close to the Lions Lincoln Theater. So That's an example of pursuing industry, pursuing good paying jobs in good industry, and that proved to be very successful for Massillon.
Thank you. Ms. Sarah Perry.
Thank you, Dick. I can tell you Baker Hughes is probably the one that I can say that we've been successful, because we almost lost this company when I first entered office. They were not happy with the city, and so we worked with the state once again to work with them to bring them to our city. We now have Baker Hughes with 100 jobs over on the off of 30. If you probably have gone by there and have noticed it. But there are many, many more. I'll tell you, we've brought in the Dollar General. We brought back Stark Ambulance. The Danbury is building an Alzheimer's unit over by the Legends. PSC Metals, Bueller's grocery store on the west side. So Dunkin' Donuts has been a huge hit for those that want to jump off and grab a cup of coffee and a donut quickly off at 21. So we have many to talk about as well, but I would have to say Baker Hughes would be the one that I am very proud of.
Thank you. Mr. Brookhart?
Well, I guess what the magical word of your question is successful. The first thing that comes to my mind that I saw that was developed in my lifetime, I'm just going to say, I'll call out Walmart, but I'm more looking at the Massillon Market development altogether. And why I think that was so successful is because it's not only been in place for well over a decade now, but it's almost always 90% filled at all times. And I drive all over this county, and I see strip malls all the time that they're either empty or they're still closing up today. But I use the word successful because just like the mayor rattled off all these businesses, they're service industry businesses. They do not pay a livable, sustainable wage. This is what we have to change in this city. She wants to tote about her $1,000 or 1,000 people creation or 800 retained. But here's the question. There was an article in the newspaper not that long ago that said that every child in Massillon City schools will now receive a free lunch. The reason for that is because we got a grant. If you get a grant, you have to qualify for it. So what was the qualification? Because 70% of our children are in poverty. So as we sit up here and we talk about all these businesses we brought here and all these great jobs we brought here, I asked you, if they're all so great, why are 70% of our school-aged children in poverty? Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is going to come from the repository, and it's going to be addressed to Ms. Sarah Perry.
Mayor, in 2014, a group of developers came to the city, pitching to build a world-class aquarium and water park on the golf course. You were prepared to sell a portion of the golf course to them. They had made the same pitch to other communities, including the city of Canton. Officials there, who I talked to personally, never allowed discussions to progress the way they did in Massillon because the developers never provided a business plan. Why did discussions progress that far? And secondly, for all of the candidates, what will each of you do as mayor to make sure tax dollars and tax incentives are being used properly and effectively when it comes to economic development?
Well, I'll try to answer the first question. You know, the Aqua Center that was proposed to our city was a very exciting venue, and many of our residents wanted to see that come to fruition. But we tested this company, and we said we'd give them the property for $1. But they had to return the property in its original state if they should leave. And they didn't want to do that. They turned around and they wanted to buy it. And we said, okay, show us the money. Show me the money. And they didn't. But I'll tell you, Matt, you have to entertain those ideas. You have to risk things at times. We didn't lose one thing on that. Not like we lost $1 million on the site preparation for the arena. So we didn't have any risk in it. It was an opportunity to bring something fabulous to Massillon And all the residents, when it ended, said, why isn't that coming? They didn't have the money. They had to show their cards. Now, give me the second part of that question, please.
Just basically, what are you going to do to make sure that when you are awarding tax incentives and tax dollars, grants, loans to businesses, that you're doing so responsibly and that those dollars are going to be used effectively for economic development?
Well, we didn't give them anything. We offered a dollar lease. We weren't going to give them any type of an incentive. So we did protect our city, and that is something that I would do for my entire lifetime, is to protect the city of Massillon. And we made a good decision. We entertained the idea. They didn't have the money. They didn't want to lease it, and the deal was over. So it was an opportunity.
And just to jump in, Mr. Cicconelli, will you correct me if I'm wrong here, but the money that went for the arena, that money was put to use, correct, for the movie theater that went there. Is that correct?
Yes, the $1 million that came from the state of Ohio put the foundation in for the arena.
Okay.
After that, the arena
We're
was...
kind of going outside the format here, Matt, and that's really not quite...
But Regal Cinemas does sit on that foundation.
Mr. Cicconelli have an opportunity when he answers the question. Next up is Mr. Brunkard.
The water aquarium. Many residents wanted it. Here we go. I keep saying the administration does not listen to citizens. I do believe within 3 days after it was announced in the newspaper, there was a petition started at the Legends to stop it. That's how much the people wanted it. I'm going to focus more on tax incentives because that's what I have the issue with tonight. The current administration has been very quick to give tax breaks. Perfect example, Heinz. Come in, hire so many people, I think it was $35,000, tax break, boom, got it. Okay, here's the problem. I'm probably the only one up here that's ever been in a factory. Okay? Here's how a factory works. It has a revolving door. They come in one, they go out the other. Just as fast as they come in, they go out. Anybody that's been here can testify to that. So what happens? They hire their people, they get their tax break, they go on. Here's Heinz, because she wants to tout about this too. Okay, they have 8 lines up there. Okay, my sister works there. She's been there 16 years. Right now they're down to 3 lines. All the people they hired are gone. Okay, and she's laid off this week because that's the life at the factory. So what will I do just real quick here? I will give tax incentives like Governor Kasich has, which has grown this state, because prove to me that you're going to do something. Get these people, keep them, bring income into the city, and then I'll give you the tax incentive.
Time, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cicconelli, and you can address Matt's question.
Economic development was a very important part of my administration for 24 years, and it will be if I'm elected mayor again. You mentioned all these companies, Heinz, Freshmark, Shears. We can mention and all try to take credit for it, but the reason that they're here is because Massillon is a great town in which to place your business. There are plenty of lands available for development that can attract these companies. That, when you work with companies, you get the experience when you meet developers. And quite honestly, 90% of developers and business people are great people. But you do have a percentage of folks that try to take advantage and maybe aren't top of the line. And you have to be able to go through and decide which are those 90%, which belong to that 10%. And that comes from experience. And I think that's something that when the folks came from the aqua world, or whatever you want to call it, there are ways to check folks out. And we would have done that and wouldn't have gotten that far along with that project. And as it turned out, we see what happened there. Incentives are a part of the fabric of economic development. You have to have incentives in order to compete. And if you don't feel that way, I'm sorry, because that's the only way we compete, because the communities around Massillon are providing these incentives. So they're a part of economic development and growth.
Thank you, sir. The next question is going to come from League of Women Voters. And let's see, first answer, Mr. Brookhart. Amy?
This is a two-part question. The first is, what is the difference between a leader and a politician? And the second question is, which one are you?
I'm definitely the leader. Leaders have vision. And that's what I wish to bring to the people of Massillon. I think people today are sick and tired of career politicians. I hear that all the time. One of the biggest thing on Facebook says, they want Congress now to limit themselves to their own terms. I say good luck with that. You have to have a vision for what you want to see, and the city does not have any master plan out 3, 5, 10, 20, 50 years, and that's what I want to bring to the city. Leaders have vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chicanelli?
I've been an elected official for 38 years, and of course with that you get the label of being a politician. So, of course, by nature and virtue of what you do, you're a politician. But I also think your record shows what you really are. And I've lived the city for 24 years, the very, very good times and some bad times. And I think that you do have to have the ability to lead a community, because you're more than just a cheerleader. You set the tone. You set the tone for the present and the future of your community. And people and business people and community leaders look to you for guidance. And there's no question that being a leader is much more important than being a politician. One of the reasons I decided to run as an independent is because of the local party hierarchy in Massillon. And that's one of the reasons I decided to become an independent, because now I'm able to, I don't belong to a political party, so I'm more independent. I think that's better for the citizens of Massillon.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Kenneth Ferry?
I can tell you that I was on council for 8 years, and I was ready to walk away from the political world because I was frustrated. And my husband was one that said, don't do that, you're a good public servant. And that's what I consider myself, to be a public servant who was also a leader. And I can tell you, when the going gets tough, a leader has to lead. You don't bury your head in the sand. You don't avoid the problems. You direct them head on. And that's what we've done. You think out of the box. We've created a relationship with Stark Parks. They're taking care of our trails and the cultural property. We're working with Canal Fulton, and we're doing their building permits. So we're raising revenue that way. And also the county's now hosting our website. Leaders make hard decisions. They find ways to solve problems. And we've got a vehicle replacement plan now that we've never had in this city. Our vehicles were falling apart, breaking down, and leaders have to find and solve the problems. And that's what I've done since I've been here. Thank you.
Thank you. We've run through our questions, so I'm sure we have some more, but I'm real excited to hear about this lightning round word identification, whatever you're proposing. Well, Robbie, we're getting ready in an hour right now, so. Remember, if this is funny, it's my idea, but if it's not.
Well, just quickly, two of you have well-documented health issues. Kathy, you just had an extended stay in the hospital. Mayor Ciccinelli, you had a low-grade lymphoma toward the last year of your last term in office. Is each of you healthy, and will you still be able to serve? Will you be able to serve out a 4-year term?
I don't think we have to worry about yours.
Well, you know, I did spend 17 days in the hospital. I'm a nurse, my husband's a doctor, and on Labor Day I couldn't get up and walk. And I went to the hospital by squad and we're trying to figure out what was wrong, and they did an MRI and found out I had a strep infection into my vertebrae. So I had to go to rehab and gain my strength back, but there's no problems with my health. I have a few more weeks of antibiotic therapy, but I'm strong as ever, and I didn't miss a beat. If you realize, when I was in the hospital, I left the hospital to attend the independent interview for the endorsement, and then went back to the hospital. And so I'm all in, and I will be healthy after I finish my antibiotics. Thank you.
We're kind of going to kind of limit it as much as possible to either a yes or no answer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Are you healthy or not?
Yes.
I just had my checkup. The doctor says I'm good to go. Honestly, though, if you can sit up here and do this, I think you're good to go. I really do.
Matt, you have something else?
I'll do a quick yes or no question. Do you promise here and now to keep political favors and nepotism out of the hiring practice and to advertise all jobs if elected?
Yes.
That's a yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, that's why I'm independent.
Yes.
That was it. You have any more of these, or did you have a name identification to you?
I have one more.
By all means.
It's-
I told you this is going to be informal, so by all means.
I asked you this a couple weeks ago. I want you to say it in front of this audience here tonight. Will each of you pledge to endorse and campaign for the income tax increase that Massillon voters will see on the ballot in March, regardless of whether you win or lose November 3rd? And, to up the odds, will you also transform your political websites and or social media sites after this election into sites that actively promote this ballot issue?
Is that a yes or no question? Yes.
It's yes or no. It has to be yes. Well, my only problem is my social media page is my private page. I don't have I have a public website, votersforlee.com. It's real easy. Please go there, check out my strategic plan. But my
Yes or no, Mr. Brewer?
Facebook page, yes.
Yes and yes.
Ms. Van Dress, do you have something?
I can ask one more question. If elected, can you pledge to end the blame game and focus only on what you can do to move this city forward, create jobs, bring the city out of its fiscal crisis, and not look for excuses but solutions?
It's a resounding yes, because I'm the only one who has sat up here tonight and not blamed anybody. And on day one, the Brunkard administration will never say, oh, I inherited this. We're going to get to work and get the problem solved.
The other?
Well, I would tell you that, you have to know your history. And I think we've educated everyone here this evening, so I think we all need to move forward.
One of the reasons I decided to run is for 4 years I've been blamed for everything. So I decided to, might as well give the opportunity for Kathy to run against me again. But honestly, when I was elected in 1987, and I followed an 8-year Mayor Delbert Demmer, you never heard of people. You never heard of people.
Sir, we need a yes or no.
Yes.
Got it. That wasn't very much fun, so I think that was your idea. Do you have something else more fun?
Can I ask one more question?
By all means.
This is a question from the audience. There's speculation about the disbanding of the Massillon Police Department and contracting with the Stark County Sheriff's Office for Massillon's police protection. Is that a good idea?
We're going
No.
back. We're going back to the just yes or no. What do you do with that?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Never.
We've got, it's a little over an hour, around 5 minutes. So, yeah, if you have something else, you have more questions? Okay, do you have something good there? Now this is from the audience, is it, Amy? Okay.
Okay.
And this will be going to Mr. Chickenauga. We'll go back to the old rotation.
Another question from the audience. We'll try to get as many of these out of the way as we can. While we are sitting here in this wonderful old theater, a true Massillon treasure, what will each of you do to guarantee its survival?
Well, like any other institution in Massillon, this facility has withered many, many years and many, many, many changes in our community. If it wasn't for the Lions Club taking the ball and running with it and purchasing this facility many years ago, that organization saved this gem for downtown and for Massillon. So it's always been an integral part of the city, and if elected mayor, we'll do whatever we can to assist this the Lions Club to make sure that this beautiful facility is here for generations to come.
Ms. Kaiser-Perry?
This theater is a gem to our city, and I recognized that very quickly when I moved to Massillon. And so I was proactive. I worked with Linda Blankenship and recruited Darlene Violet to run a fundraiser for the theater called Dancing Through the Decades, and we raised $40,000 for the theater. I also participated in the capital campaign where we received $350,000 to make improvements in the back restrooms and dressing rooms. And finally, this is the one that makes me a little uncomfortable. My husband and I participated in the Lions Show. I think they said it was the first mayor ever to participate, and we ballroom danced here. So we have already worked on Lincoln Lions Theater, and I'll do everything and anything to help Linda and the Lions Club keep this as a gem for our city.
In knowing our history, born and raised here, my roots are very, very deep here. I'm very passionate about historical sites and historical architecture. I basically grew up in the Women's Club because I was a Washingtonian, and Mrs. V belonged there. I just want to touch base real quick. It was interesting when Kathy and I stood on this stage. She told Rudy Turple, come see me, I'll help you write a grant for this place. And just why that comes up real quick is because I just want to touch note the fire chief who wrote a grant that saved his people. It was the police chief who got a grant to save people. It was the patrolman who got a grant for the safety cameras. That's not their job. That's the administrator's job. As the administrator of the city, I can assure you, with my love for the city and my love for architecture and history, I would do absolutely anything I possibly could to keep this theater, which I do believe is the oldest operating moving picture theater in the United States. So, thank you.
Thank you. Actually, we have one more from the audience? We have something better. Okay. And it's going to go to Ms. Kaiser-Perry.
What are your priorities for the street fund? I assume they mean the capital improvement fund.
Could you repeat that, Matt?
What are your priorities for the street fund?
Or the streetscape or the street fund?
It says street fund. I'm assuming they mean paving of roads.
Okay, and that is a very high priority for me. Our roads are a mess. We've had 2 brutal winters, and we're working hard to fix them. As you know, I called a street emergency twice so that we were able to bring up help from the wastewater treatment plant to get our roads plowed. We have 2 brutal winters, and when you ignore the infrastructure and you ignore the roads, this is what happens. And so we're working very hard. But I will tell you, we're using CDBG funds for Target Streets, and those are starting on the west side this week. We also repaved Hankins and restructured that road. We did Lake Avenue, 9th Street. On tap for next year is Main Street. So we have done road projects and we're working hard to get that done, but it's hard to do anything without money. The last thing I'll tell you, because I know my time's running out, is I've created a way for the TIF dollars to be utilized. We broadened the language on the TIF dollars. There's $1 million that we can spend on our roads, and that will be executed next spring. And those TIF dollars are just sitting there, just building up and building up and building up. But it was our leadership, our idea, to go to the state auditor to create and extend that verbiage, and City Council approved that. So next year, $1 million, a big project, completely 17th Street, 11th Street, and those are all arterials streets. Thank you.
I've already touched on this a couple times this evening. We're going to bring it in-house. That's going to be the end of it. We're going to bring in asphalt recycling. We just have to buy the machine. We obviously have the funds to do that. And we're going to come out and do the road in front of your house in about 2 hours. And that's what's going to happen. The machine literally picks up, heats it up, puts it back down. We don't even have to buy any extra aggregate to go into it. All we have to do is pay for the wages for the men and the women to run the machines. And again, I cannot stress the importance of this. And going back to, if you're not elected, I will share all this information because it's just too good to pass up. You're saving almost 40% by bringing it in-house. Again, for every 10 roads that we would pay to have done, we could do 4 more roads. I don't know, it's just a no-brainer to me, and that's what I would do immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cicchinelli?
Well, as a mayor for 24 years, we repaved a lot of roads. In fact, all roads within the city of Massillon were paved at least once. And was mentioned, there's a couple residents of Spring Hill Settlement, including Spring Hill Settlement. But like anything else, that was several years ago, and the roads in that allotment are deteriorating. When you're mayor for 24 years, you put a lot of dollars together, a lot of funds together, and come up with ways to do road resurfacing, whether it's a major road where you can work and leverage state money, community development money, or any other fund or revenue stream that you can find. And we did that. So it is a high priority, and the roads in Massillon need some major attention at the moment. Irony of all of it, Kathy mentioned the TIF money. When she was a member of council, we proposed all these TIFs that are putting a lot of money into these funds for infrastructure. She voted against the last 6 or 7 TIFs that when she was a member of council. So now she wants to utilize those dollars when it was all set up under the previous administration. So we'll see what happens.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to do the 1-minute closing summation and so forth, and we're still going to stick to the same rotation. So that means Mr. Brookhart gets to go first, and it's going to be a minute.
The year was 1972. 2 events happened this year. I was born, and Mark Ross became mayor of Massillon. Mark Ross was a simple barber who loved the city that he lived in. The 8 years that Mr. Ross was mayor, his vision brought us the Massillon Municipal Government Center, which is just across the street from us today, and the first Festival Association for Musical Enjoyment, which was a prelude to what is now our summer concert series. The Independent printed that Mayor Ross was the epitome of people who work hard and obtain something that makes everyone very, very proud. On November 3rd, you will have 3 choices before you. You can keep what you got, go backwards, or as in 1972, pass the torch to a hardworking man who has a vision that will make everyone very, very proud. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Massillon voters have a clear choice on Tuesday, November 3rd. There are major differences between me and my opponents. Probably the best way to summarize them is to ask the question, who can we trust to manage our multi-million-dollar budget and provide the professional and ethical leadership we need? My administration balanced 24 straight budgets, operating in the black, and earned the highest Moody ratings. My opponent put us into fiscal emergency for the first time in our history, and we saw our bond rating drop. Then she blames everything on everyone else. But the most disturbing fact about the Catanzaro Perry administration is the unprofessional manner in which it conducts important business on behalf of the citizens of Massillon. Politically motivated hires, administrative mismanagement, embarrassing outbursts against elected members of council, political intimidation of our professional department leaders and employees. This has got to end.
Time, please. I'm sorry. Time's up. Oh, okay. Ms. Catanzaro Perry.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending tonight's debate. Today we can be proud that our city is moving forward. Our downtown storefronts are filling up. We're using our CDBG dollars to resurface our streets. And we're going to be able to use $1 million of TIF dollars for our roads in the near future. The $2.6 million deficit that was left to me has been paid off. And I signed the legislation to eliminate the automatic pay raises. One thing that you do need to remember is I don't hide when the going gets tough. When I came into office, we decided our motto would be, we will always do the right thing. And we've done that. I've been involved in our community, which wasn't possible under the other administration. And tonight, I want you to remember one thing as you're walking out the door. And this is something very important. He broke it, I fixed it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your participation. I have a couple of thank yous. I want to thank our sponsors here. I'd like to thank the people at the Lincoln Theater. I'd like to thank, it's going to be on Massillon Cable. I don't know, do we know when it's going to be on? Hey, I'll look for it on TV. It's going to be rebroadcast. Definitely want to thank our volunteers here from the league. Carol Schoenhoff, this was her baby, so I appreciate Carol, the help, and all other volunteers. Thank you very much. Thank you, co-sponsors, and thank you, candidates, for being here. This is what it's all about. We heard from you straight what the straight scoop is, and thank you all. Please don't forget to vote.